In a small, quiet town surrounded by rolling hills and factories, there lived a young girl named Emily Carter. Her life wasn't extraordinary by most standards. She grew up in a modest home with her father, Mr. Carter, who worked long hours as a janitor at Tech Industries, one of the largest engineering companies in the region. Despite their humble lifestyle, Emily had an insatiable curiosity that set her apart from others her age. She didn't care much for dolls or video games. Instead, she spent her free time taking things apart and putting them back together again. Whether it was a broken clock, an old toaster, or even her neighbor's bicycle, Emily loved figuring out how things worked. Her fascination with machines began when she was just 6 years old. One day, while helping her father clean out the garage, she stumbled upon an old lawnmower that hadn't been used in years. Curious, she asked her father what it did. He explained its purpose but warned her not to touch it since it was rusty and probably useless. But Emily couldn't resist. Over the next few days, she carefully disassembled the lawnmower piece by piece, studying each part and trying to understand its function. With some trial and error and plenty of grease stains on her hands, she managed to fix it. When she proudly showed her father the working machine, he laughed in amazement and said, "Emily, you've got a gift. One day you'll fix something so big it'll change the world." As Emily grew older, her talent only became more apparent. By the time she turned 13, she could repair almost anything she touched. Neighbors started bringing her their broken appliances, knowing she'd find a way to make them work again. Some joked that she had a magic touch, but Emily knew it wasn't magic. It was hard work, patience, and an innate understanding of mechanics. What made her unique was her ability to see patterns and connections where others saw chaos. To her, every machine told a story, and she felt compelled to listen. Despite her remarkable skills, Emily never boasted about her abilities. She remained humble, often crediting her late mother for inspiring her love of engineering. Though Emily was too young to remember much about her mother, her father often spoke fondly of her. "Your mom was brilliant," he would say. "She could solve problems no one else could. You remind me of her every day." These words filled Emily with pride and determination. Even though she didn't have many opportunities to pursue formal education in engineering, she taught herself by reading books, watching videos online, and experimenting with whatever materials she could find. Meanwhile, Tech Industries, the company where Emily's father worked, was going through a turbulent phase. The company prided itself on innovation, particularly in developing cutting-edge engines for aerospace and automotive industries. However, their latest project, the TTX 9000 engine, had hit a major roadblock. After months of development and millions of dollars invested, the prototype failed during testing due to an unexplained malfunction. Engineers scrambled to identify the issue, but despite their best efforts, they couldn't figure out what was wrong. Frustrated and under immense pressure from investors, CEO Richard Langley called an emergency meeting. Richard Langley was known throughout the industry for his sharp mind and relentless drive. However, he also had a reputation for arrogance and elitism. He believed success came from privilege and pedigree, dismissing anyone who didn't fit his narrow definition of excellence. During the meeting, he vented his frustration at the team, calling the problem impossible to solve without outside intervention. "If our top engineers can't fix this," he barked, "then maybe we need to bring in experts from another company." Unbeknownst to Richard, fate was about to throw him a curveball. That same evening, while cleaning the workshop floor after hours, Mr. Carter noticed Emily lingering near the restricted area where the TTX 9000 was being stored. Normally, employees weren't allowed anywhere near the prototype unless authorized, but Emily's curiosity got the better of her. "Dad, can I take a quick look?" she asked innocently. Reluctantly, her father agreed, warning her not to touch anything. But Emily's eyes were already scanning the massive machine, absorbing every detail. On the wall nearby, she spotted a set of schematics pinned up for reference. As she studied them, her mind began racing. To her, the solution seemed glaringly obvious: a misaligned valve system causing excessive pressure buildup. It was a simple oversight, yet one that had eluded the highly trained engineers. Unable to resist, Emily quietly approached the engine and made the necessary adjustments using basic tools left behind by the maintenance crew. Within minutes, she stepped back, satisfied with her work. Little did she know this impulsive decision would soon turn her life and the fate of Titan Best Industries upside down. The stage was now set for an unexpected clash between brilliance and bias, humility and hubris. For Emily, it was just another challenge to overcome. For Richard, it would become a lesson he'd never forget. The next morning at Titan Tech Industries began like any other, with engineers bustling around the facility, poring over blueprints and running diagnostics on various prototypes. The air was thick with tension as everyone scrambled to find a solution to the TTX 9000 engine's persistent malfunction. Despite their best efforts, no one had been able to pinpoint the root cause of the problem. Frustration hung heavy in the room, and whispers of doubt spread among the team. Some feared they might have to scrap the entire project, while others wondered if hiring external consultants was the only way forward. Meanwhile, Emily woke up early, unaware of the storm brewing at Titan Tech. She helped her father prepare breakfast before heading off to school, her mind still buzzing from the previous night's adventure. Though she hadn't intended to meddle with the engine, something about solving its issue gave her a quiet sense of satisfaction. Fixing things came naturally to her. It was almost instinctual, like breathing. Still, she knew she'd taken a risk by tampering with such an important machine without permission. As she walked to class, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone might discover what she'd done. Back at the workshop, chaos erupted when the lead engineer, Marcus Hale, arrived for his shift. He noticed immediately that certain components of the TTX 9000 had been adjusted overnight. Confused and alarmed, he called for security to review the surveillance footage. When the grainy video revealed a young girl tinkering with the engine, Marcus was both shocked and furious. Who was this intruder? And how dare they interfere with a multi-million-dollar prototype? Word of the incident quickly reached CEO Richard Langley, who stormed into the control room demanding answers. Upon seeing the footage of Emily working on the engine, his face turned red with anger. "What is the meaning of this?" he barked. "Who let some kid near our equipment?" Security personnel scrambled to identify the girl, and it didn't take long to connect her to Mr. Carter, the janitor. Furious, Richard ordered both Emily and her father to report to his office immediately. When Emily and her father arrived, they found themselves standing in front of Richard's imposing desk. The CEO glared at them, his expression dripping with disdain. "So," he said coldly, addressing Emily, "you're the one responsible for tampering with my company's property. Do you have any idea how much damage you could have caused?" His tone was sharp, dismissive, as though speaking to someone beneath him. Emily, however, remained calm. She met his gaze steadily and replied, "I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I saw the schematics and noticed a misalignment in the valve system. It looked easy to fix, so I made the adjustment." Her voice was soft, but confident, betraying none of the nerves she felt inside. Richard scoffed loudly, leaning back in his chair. "Easy to fix? You expect me to believe that a child, let alone the daughter of a janitor, could solve a problem that has stumped our top engineers for weeks?" He shook his head, clearly amused by the absurdity of the situation. "This is ridiculous. If you think you can waltz in here and play mechanic, you're sorely mistaken." Despite his mockery, Emily stood her ground. "It's not about playing mechanic," she said firmly. "It's about understanding how things work. I've been fixing machines since I was little. This engine wasn't all that different." Richard raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself, though he refused to admit it. There was something compelling about the girl's composure. Deciding to test her claim, he instructed Marcus to run another diagnostic test on the TTX 9000. "If it works," he told Emily sternly, "we'll consider your explanation. But if it doesn't, you'll be held accountable for interfering with company property." As the team gathered around the engine, anticipation crackled in the air. No one expected the machine to function properly, not after weeks of failed attempts. But when Marcus pressed the ignition button, the TTX 9000 roared to life with a smooth hum. The room fell silent as everyone stared in disbelief. Engineers exchanged bewildered glances, unsure whether to celebrate or question their own expertise. For a moment, no one spoke. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. It actually works," he stammered, his voice tinged with awe. "She fixed it." Richard's jaw tightened. He couldn't deny the evidence before him, yet his pride refused to let him acknowledge Emily's accomplishment outright. Instead, he turned to her with a skeptical frown. "Beginner's luck," he muttered under his breath. Then, louder, he added, "Prove it wasn't a fluke. Show us you can do it again." Emily nodded, unfazed by the challenge. Over the next hour, Richard presented her with another complex issue, a secondary project involving a hydraulic pump that had been malfunctioning for months. Once again, Emily approached the task methodically, examining the schematics and inspecting each component carefully. Using nothing more than her keen observation skills and basic tools, she identified a microscopic crack in a critical part that had gone unnoticed by even the most experienced engineers. When she explained her findings and proposed a simple fix, the room erupted in murmurs of astonishment. Even Marcus, who had initially dismissed her, admitted grudgingly, "She's good, really good." Yet Richard remained unconvinced. Rather than praising her ingenuity, he sneered, "A janitor's daughter shouldn't be wasting her time playing mechanic. Go back to school and focus on something more realistic." Emily didn't respond. She simply smiled faintly, knowing deep down that she had proven herself, and that Richard's words carried no weight against the truth of her abilities. As she left the office with her father, she felt a strange mix of triumph and sadness. Triumph because she had succeeded where others had failed. Sadness because even now, people underestimated her because of where she came from. Unbeknownst to Emily, her actions that day would spark a chain reaction within Titan Tech. News of her feat spread rapidly through the company, igniting conversations about talent potential and the barriers that often prevented brilliant minds from being recognized. While some employees marveled at her skill, others dismissed it as luck or coincidence. Meanwhile, Richard found himself grappling with conflicting emotions. On one hand, he wanted to discredit Emily's achievement. On the other, he couldn't ignore the undeniable proof of her genius. Later that evening, as Emily sat at home sketching designs for a new invention, she reflected on the day's events. She knew she had accomplished something extraordinary, but she also understood that proving herself once wouldn't be enough. There would always be skeptics, always be those who doubted her because of her background. But Emily wasn't afraid of challenges. In fact, she welcomed them. Every obstacle was just another puzzle waiting to be solved, and she had never backed down from a puzzle yet. Little did she know, her journey was only beginning. The world was about to learn just how far determination, talent, and a humble heart could take someone willing to defy expectations. The buzz around Emily's unexpected triumph at Titan Tech Industries spread like wildfire. Employees whispered about the janitor's daughter, who had fixed the supposedly impossible TTX 9000 engine in hushed tones, blending admiration with disbelief. Some marveled at her ingenuity, while others dismissed it as beginner's luck or a fluke. But no matter what people thought, one thing was undeniable. Emily had done something that seasoned engineers couldn't. Her name became a topic of conversation not just within Titan Tech but also beyond its walls. Local media outlets caught wind of the story and began reaching out for interviews, eager to uncover more about this mysterious young mechanic. Emily, however, wasn't interested in fame or attention. She preferred staying under the radar, quietly, working on her projects and helping her father with his janitorial duties. Still, when a journalist from the town's newspaper approached her for an interview after school one afternoon, she reluctantly agreed, partly out of curiosity, and partly because she wanted to set the record straight. The journalist, a kind woman named Linda, asked Emily how she'd managed to solve such a complex problem. "Well," Emily began hesitantly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, "I didn't think it was all that complicated. Machines are like puzzles. They follow rules. If you pay close enough attention, you can figure them out." She paused, then added with a shy smile, And I guess I've always been good at puzzles. When Linda probed further, asking where she'd learned so much about mechanics, Emily's expression softened. For the first time during the interview, she opened up about her mother. My mom taught me a lot before she passed away, Emily said quietly. She used to work as an aerospace engineer, and even though I don't remember much about her, my dad says she was amazing at what she did. I think fixing things is my way of keeping her memory alive. Linda scribbled notes furiously, sensing she'd stumbled onto something deeper than a simple human interest story. When the article was published the following week, it painted Emily not just as a prodigy, but as someone shaped by loss and resilience. Readers were captivated by her humility and determination, and soon, the story gained traction far beyond the small industrial town. National news outlets picked it up, turning Emily into an overnight sensation. Back at Titan Tech, Richard Langley found himself increasingly uneasy. At first, he'd tried to brush off Emily's success as a stroke of luck, but the growing public interest forced him to confront the reality of her abilities. Worse still, whispers among employees suggested that his dismissive attitude toward her might have been misplaced, or worse, prejudiced. Determined to get to the bottom of things, Richard decided to dig deeper into Emily's background. He started by reviewing old records, searching for any mention of her mother. What he uncovered left him stunned. Emily's mother, Dr. Margaret Carter, had indeed been a celebrated aerospace engineer whose innovative designs had revolutionized fuel efficiency in jet engines. Before her untimely death in a car accident, when Emily was just 10 years old, she had been considered one of the brightest minds in the field. Richard realized with a sinking feeling that Emily's talent wasn't some random anomaly. It was genetic brilliance nurtured through years of self-teaching and hands-on experience. Feeling a pang of guilt, Richard called Emily into his office once again. This time, though, his demeanor was markedly different. Gone was the arrogance and condescension. Instead, he greeted her with a hesitant smile. "Emily," he began, clearing his throat. "I owe you an apology. I underestimated you, and I'm sorry for that. After reading about your mother, I understand now why you're so gifted. It's clear you inherited her brilliance." Emily blinked, surprised by the sudden change in tone. "Thank you," she replied cautiously, unsure whether to trust his sincerity. Richard leaned forward, his voice earnest. "I know I've made mistakes, but I want to make things right. You belong here, Emily. Not as a visitor or an outsider, but as part of our team. Your skills are extraordinary, and we'd be foolish not to nurture them." For a moment, Emily said nothing. She studied Richard's face, searching for any hint of insincerity. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said simply, her voice steady. "But only if you mean it." "I do," Richard assured her. And for the first time since meeting Emily, he truly meant it. Over the next few weeks, Richard took steps to ensure Emily felt valued and supported. He arranged for her to shadow senior engineers, gave her access to advanced tools and resources, and encouraged her to share her ideas openly. To his surprise and relief, the rest of the team welcomed her warmly. Engineers who had initially doubted her quickly came to respect her insights, and many sought her advice on challenging projects. One day, during a brainstorming session for a new turbine design, Emily pointed out a flaw in the proposed blueprint that no one else had noticed. "If we adjust the angle of these blades slightly," she explained, sketching her idea on the whiteboard, "we'll reduce drag and improve efficiency by at least 15%. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her suggestion. Moments later, applause erupted, and Marcus Hale, a man who had once dismissed her, shook her hand and said, "You're incredible, Emily. We're lucky to have you." As word of her contributions continued to grow, so did Emily's confidence. She began speaking up more often, sharing her thoughts without hesitation. People listened, not because they pitied her or felt obligated, but because they genuinely respected her expertise. Slowly but surely, Emily carved out a place for herself at Titan Tech, proving that talent knows no boundaries. Still, she remained grounded, never letting the praise go to her head. Whenever someone complimented her, she shrugged modesty and credited, her late mother. "She taught me everything I know," Emily would say with a soft smile. "I'm just carrying on her legacy." Her humility endeared her even more to those around her, including Richard. Over time, their relationship evolved from one of skepticism and tension to mutual respect and mentorship. Richard learned valuable lessons from Emily, not just about engineering but about leadership, inclusivity, and the importance of recognizing potential regardless of background. In turn, Emily benefited from his guidance, gaining knowledge and experience that would shape her future in ways she couldn't yet imagine. By the end of the year, Emily had become an integral part of Titan Tech. Though she was still just a teenager, her impact on the company was undeniable. Projects that had stalled for months suddenly moved forward thanks to her input, and morale among employees soared. For the first time in years, Titan Tech felt like a place where innovation thrived, not because of hierarchy or privilege, but because everyone, regardless of their position, was given a chance to shine. Emily's journey was far from over, but she knew she was exactly where she belonged. Surrounded by machines, blueprints, and people who believed in her, she felt a sense of purpose she'd never experienced before. Every challenge she faced only fueled her determination to push boundaries and break barriers. And as she stood in the workshop one evening, watching the TTX 9000 hum smoothly in the corner, she allowed herself a small smile. She had proven herself. Not just to Richard, not just to Titan Tech, but to the world. But more importantly, she had stayed true to who she was, a curious, hard-working girl with a passion for solving problems. No title, no accolade, could ever change that. As Emily settled into her new role at Titan Tech Industries, the company began to transform in ways no one could have predicted. Her presence wasn't just a novelty anymore, it was a catalyst for change. The once rigid and hierarchical structure of the organization started to loosen as employees realized that innovation didn't always come from the top. Engineers, technicians, and even janitors began sharing ideas more freely, inspired by Emily's fearless approach to problem solving. Slowly but surely, Titan Tech became a place where creativity flourished and collaboration replaced competition. Richard Langley, too, underwent a profound transformation. Once known for his arrogance and elitism, he now found himself humbled by Emily's brilliance and resilience. He spent hours reflecting on his past behavior, not just toward Emily but toward countless others whose potential he might have overlooked because of their background or lack of credentials. It dawned on him that true leadership wasn't about asserting authority. It was about recognizing talent, nurturing it, and creating opportunities for people to grow. Determined to make amends, Richard took bold steps to reshape the culture at Titan Tech. He launched an initiative called Open Doors, inviting employees from all levels of the company to pitch ideas for improving processes, products, or workplace dynamics. To everyone's surprise, some of the most groundbreaking suggestions came from individuals who had previously been ignored: maintenance staff, interns, and junior engineers. Among them was Emily, whose proposal for a modular engine design earned widespread acclaim and secured funding for development. But Richard didn't stop there. He also established a scholarship program aimed at supporting underprivileged students interested in STEM fields. Naming it the Margaret Carter Memorial Scholarship in honor of Emily's late mother, he ensured that talented young minds like Emily would never again be held back by financial constraints. When he announced the program during a company-wide meeting, Emily sat quietly in the front row, tears glistening in her eyes. Though she rarely sought recognition, she couldn't help but feel proud knowing her mother's legacy was being celebrated in such a meaningful way. Despite these positive changes, not everyone at Titan Tech welcomed the shift. Some senior executives grumbled about Richard's newfound focus on inclusivity, arguing that it undermined the company's traditional values. Others dismissed Emily's contributions as overhyped, insisting she'd only succeeded because of Richard's guilt. But their complaints fell on deaf ears. The undeniable results spoke for themselves. Productivity soared, employee satisfaction improved, and Titan Tech regained its reputation as an industry leader. For Emily, life became a whirlwind of learning and growth. She immersed herself in every project she could, soaking up knowledge like a sponge. Engineers marveled at her ability to grasp complex concepts quickly, while designers praised her knack for simplifying intricate systems. Yet what truly set her apart was her willingness to listen. Unlike many prodigies who grew arrogant with success, Emily remained humble, always eager to learn from those around her. One day, while working on a prototype for a lightweight turbine, Emily encountered a particularly stubborn issue. No matter how many adjustments she made, the machine refused to function smoothly. Frustrated but determined, she decided to seek advice from Marcus Hale, the same engineer who had initially doubted her abilities. To her delight, Marcus greeted her warmly and offered to help troubleshoot the problem. Together, they pored over schematics, ran simulations, and tested various solutions until finally, they cracked the code. "You know," Marcus said afterward, clapping her on the shoulder, "you're not just smart, you're relentless. That's what makes you great." Emily grinned, feeling a sense of camaraderie she hadn't experienced before. It wasn't just about proving herself anymore. It was about building relationships and making a real difference. Outside of work, Emily continued to inspire those around her. Teachers at her high school noticed a marked improvement in her confidence and academic performance. Classmates who had once teased her for being different now looked up to her as a role model. Even her father, Mr. Carter, beamed with pride whenever he talked about her achievements. "I always knew you were special," he told her one evening as they sat together on the porch. "But seeing you shine like this, it's more than I ever dreamed." Yet despite her growing fame, Emily never lost sight of her roots. She still helped her father clean the workshop floors after hours, refusing to let anyone else take over his duties. "This is your job, Dad," she'd say with a smile. "Besides, I like spending time with you." Their bond remained unshakable, a testament to the love and support that had carried them through tough times. Meanwhile, Richard continued mentoring Emily, guiding her as she navigated the challenges of balancing school and work. He introduced her to influential figures in the engineering world, arranged internships at partner companies, and encouraged her to pursue higher education. "You have a gift, Emily," he told her one afternoon as they reviewed plans for AI. "New project. Don't waste it. The world needs people like you, people who see possibilities where others see obstacles." Emily nodded thoughtfully, absorbing his words. She knew Richard wasn't perfect. He still had moments of impatience and occasional lapses into old habits, but she respected his efforts to change. More importantly, she appreciated the opportunities he'd given her, opportunities she intended to use wisely. By the time Emily graduated high school, she had already earned a reputation as one of the brightest young engineers in the country. News outlets hailed her as a rising star, universities competed for her attention, and companies lined up to offer her lucrative positions. Yet when Richard approached her with a proposal to enroll in Titan Tech University on a full scholarship while continuing her internship at the company, she accepted without hesitation. "It feels right," she explained to her father later that night. "This is where I belong, for now at least. And besides, I'm not done solving problems here." Her decision marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with endless possibilities. Over the next few years, Emily thrived in her dual roles as a student and an innovator. She excelled in her coursework, earning top marks in every subject, while simultaneously contributing to groundbreaking projects at Titan Tech. Her modular engine design, once a mere concept, evolved into a fully functional prototype that revolutionized fuel efficiency in commercial vehicles. Industry experts hailed it as a game changer, and Emily found herself standing on stages alongside CEOs and scientists, accepting awards and delivering keynote speeches. Through it all, she remained grounded, never forgetting the lessons she'd learned along the way. Humility, perseverance, and kindness became her guiding principles, shaping not just her career but her character. People admired her not only for her intellect but for her humanity, the way she treated everyone with respect, regardless of their title or status. As Emily stood on the brink of adulthood, preparing to step into an even larger role at Titan Tech, she reflected on how far she'd come. From a curious girl tinkering with broken appliances in her garage to a trailblazer redefining the future of engineering, her journey had been anything but ordinary. But perhaps the most remarkable part of it all was the ripple effect she'd created. A reminder that one person's courage and determination could inspire countless others to dream bigger, aim higher, and break free from limitations. And though the road ahead promised challenges, Emily faced them with unwavering resolve. After all, she'd proven time and again that impossible problems were merely puzzles waiting to be solved, and she loved nothing more than solving puzzles. By the age of 25, Emily Carter had achieved what many thought was impossible. She wasn't just an engineer, she was a visionary, a leader, and a symbol of hope for countless young minds around the world. Her journey from the daughter of a janitor to the youngest chief engineer in Titan Tech Industries history was nothing short of extraordinary. Yet to those who knew her best, it came as no surprise. Emily's brilliance, paired with her relentless determination and humility, had always set her apart. The years following her high school graduation were a whirlwind of growth, learning, and innovation. At Titan Tech University, Emily excelled academically, earning top honors and distinguishing herself in every course she took. Professors marveled at her ability to connect theoretical concepts with practical applications, often inviting her to collaborate on research projects that pushed the boundaries of engineering. Outside of class, she spent countless hours in the university's labs, experimenting with new ideas and refining existing technologies. Her internship at Titan Tech Industries continued alongside her studies, allowing her to apply what she learned in real-world scenarios. Engineers who had once doubted her quickly became her staunchest allies, recognizing not only her technical expertise, but also her ability to inspire teamwork and foster collaboration. Emily's presence in the workplace was transformative. She encouraged open dialogue, welcomed diverse perspectives, and championed creative problem-solving. Under her influence, teams that had previously struggled to communicate began working together seamlessly, producing results far beyond expectations. One of Emily's most significant accomplishments during this time was the development of the Carter engine, named in honor of her late mother. This revolutionary design combined lightweight materials with advanced aerodynamics, drastically improving fuel efficiency while reducing emissions. When the prototype was unveiled at an international engineering conference, it received a standing ovation. Industry leaders hailed it as a breakthrough that would shape the future of transportation, and environmental advocates praised its potential to combat climate change. For Emily, the moment was bittersweet. While she felt immense pride in her achievement, she couldn't help but think of her mother, the woman who had ignited her passion for engineering, and wished she could have been there to see it. As her reputation grew, so did the demands on her time. Emily traveled extensively, delivering lectures at universities, participating in panel discussions, and consulting with companies eager to adopt her methods. Despite her busy schedule, she remained deeply committed to mentoring young engineers, particularly those from underprivileged backgrounds. Through the Margaret Carter Memorial Scholarship Program, she personally mentored dozens of students, guiding them through their academic and professional journeys. Many of these individuals went on to achieve remarkable success, crediting Emily with helping them unlock their full potential. Back at Titan Tech Industries, Richard Langley watched Emily's rise with a mix of pride and admiration. The CEO, who had once dismissed her as just a janitor's daughter, now considered her one of the greatest assets, not just to the company, but to the entire industry. Over the years, their relationship had evolved from mentorship to genuine friendship. Richard often sought Emily's advice on strategic decisions, valuing her insight and honesty. In turn, Emily respected Richard for his willingness to grow and adapt, qualities he'd demonstrated consistently since their rocky beginning. When the position of chief engineer became available, there was little debate about who should fill it. Emily's promotion was met with unanimous approval, both within the company and across the engineering community. On her first day in the role, she addressed the team with characteristic humility. "I didn't get here alone," she said, her voice steady but warm. "Every one of you has played a part in my journey. Together, we've accomplished incredible things, and I believe we're just getting started. Under Emily's leadership, Titan Tech reached unprecedented heights. Projects that had languished for years suddenly gained momentum thanks to her innovative thinking and hands-on approach. The company expanded into renewable energy, developing cutting-edge solutions for solar power, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. These initiatives not only bolstered Titan Tech's bottom line, but also positioned it as a global leader in sustainable technology. Investors cheered, employees celebrated, and communities benefited from the positive impact of their work. But Emily's influence extended far beyond Titan Tech. As her fame spread, she became a vocal advocate for diversity and inclusion in STEM fields. She frequently spoke out against systemic barriers that prevented talented individuals from pursuing careers in science and engineering, urging companies to create pathways for underrepresented groups. Her speeches resonated with audiences worldwide, inspiring organizations to rethink their hiring practices and invest in educational outreach programs. Despite her success, Emily never lost sight of where she came from. She continued living in the same modest home she shared with her father, refusing to let wealth or fame alter her values. Every evening, she made time to sit with him on the porch, sharing stories about her day and listening to his wisdom. Their bond remained unbreakable, a testament to the love and support that had carried them through life's challenges. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Mr. Carter turned to Emily with tears in his eyes. "You've done it, sweetheart," he said softly. "You've changed the world." Emily smiled, reaching over to squeeze his hand. "No, Dad," she replied. "We've changed it, together." Though Emily's story was far from over, she understood the importance of giving back. She established the Carter Innovation Hub, a state-of-the-art facility designed to provide resources and training for aspiring engineers, regardless of their background. Equipped with the latest tools and technology, the hub offered workshops, mentorship programs, and collaborative spaces where creativity could flourish. Thousands of young innovators passed through its doors, each leaving with newfound confidence and skills. Among them was a teenage girl named Mia, whose parents worked as custodians at a nearby factory. Like Emily, Mia had a natural talent for mechanics and a hunger to learn. When she first walked into the Carter Innovation Hub, she felt out of place, until Emily greeted her with a warm smile and invited her to join a robotics project. The next few months, Mia blossomed under Emily's guidance, eventually winning a national competition for her design of an affordable water filtration system. Years later, when Mia graduated from college and landed a job at Titan Tech, she credited Emily with changing her life. Emily's legacy was not defined by awards or accolades, but by the lives she touched and the barriers she broke. She proved that genius knows no boundaries, that true potential lies not in privilege or pedigree but in curiosity, hard work, and resilience. Her journey served as a reminder that greatness often emerges from the most unlikely places, and that everyone deserves a chance to shine. As she stood on stage at an international summit years later, accepting yet another award, Emily looked out at the sea of faces before her. Some were colleagues, others admirers, and still others strangers whose lives she had unknowingly impacted. Her heart swelled with gratitude, not for the recognition, but for the opportunity to make a difference. "Thank why?" "You," she began, her voice steady and sincere. "This honor doesn't belong to me alone. It belongs to every person who believed in me, supported me, and challenged me to be better. To my father, who taught me the value of hard work. To my mother, whose memory inspires me every day. And to all of you who remind me that the pursuit of knowledge is a collective effort." She paused, scanning the crowd one last time. "The world is full of problems waiting to be solved. But if we face them together, with courage, compassion, and determination, we can build a brighter future for everyone." The audience erupted into applause, rising to their feet in a standing ovation. Emily stepped back, smiling faintly as the spotlight faded. For her, this wasn't the end. It was simply the continuation of a lifelong mission to leave the world better than she found it. And as she walked off stage, ready to tackle the next challenge, she knew she was exactly where she belonged.